Thank you, Hattie. Hi, everyone. So as a practice, we like everyone, we have to deal with the reality of lower or stagnating fees, and also more onerous scope of services, as well as liability, such as higher BIM requirements that we see on larger projects, and of course, kind of changes through the BSA. So rather than kind of keep moaning about it, which we all like doing, the real question is, how do we deal with the current situation in our day-to-day business? I guess not many architects actually enjoy dealing with the sort of boring side of things. However, it's really important to establish decent fee agreements with the client from the outset of a project. And in my view, it also helps establishing a good rapport with them and being taken seriously, not just as designers, but also as business people. What I want to concentrate on today is 4 topics: cost, rates, and profits, getting the fee right, negotiation, and also getting paid on time. And a lot of that obviously ties in with what Al and Nick already spoke about. First of all, it's really important to have a full understanding of your running costs of the business, and that's already been covered quite a lot. So this includes overheads such as premises, IT, non-fee earning staff, and then salaries and profits. And this really changes a lot depending on the size of the studio. And we've seen that some sizes kind of worked a bit better than others during that, when we grew. You kind of always have to grow into a new size for probably a few years before you can make it work. What we do is we work out cost rates for both individuals and bands on a regular basis, usually at least yearly. So each financial year we'll start with new cost rates. We have decided that director's time is counted as an overhead, which really allows us to kind of freely allocate our time to projects as we see fit, and support each project as needed. Of course, in architecture, a lot of projects run for a really long time, often many years, and mostly the fee is agreed at the beginning of a fee proposal or of a project, and then that project might keep running for, say, 3 or 4 years. And there's often no means to update the fee to, for example, follow inflation or kind of larger economic impact. We used to have fees based on a percentage of the budget, but we've really seen that that's changed quite a lot. So we can't easily review the fees at milestones anymore, because clients often ask for lump sum fees, and often for the whole project at the beginning of the project. So what we try to do now is include a clause in the fee agreement that will establish some form of review of fees, at least in line with inflation. In terms of profit margins, for each project, we set their own profit margins. It really depends on the type of client. Is it private? Is it public sector? The type of project, and also at what point in time we have done the bid for the project. What we make sure is that we never buy a project, so there always has to be a profit. And sometimes it's really tempting to undercut our own cost if we really want a certain project, or to generate turnover to kind of keep going. But I think it's really important not to do that. It'll bite us in the long run, and it'll also just be bad for the industry in general, kind of keep spiraling down with the fees. So each project needs to be self-sufficient and profitable at every point in time, and that's been covered really well already with Al and Nick's presentations. The targeted profit margin for us varies from stage to stage. So how we target higher profits towards the beginning of the project. We used to look at kind of just the overall project, which meant that was really tricky in some financial years. So we've changed that, similar to the other speakers, and are now looking at ideally monthly profits, or at least stage-by-stage project profits. We still have the issue that stage 5 is often not profitable, and will even make a loss. And for us at the moment, the only way of making it work is really to exactly know your scope and not to shy away from issuing variations. In terms of getting the fee right, we always work out our fees in various ways: percentage of a budget, calculated with historic fee data and kind of just from experience. And then a resource plan looking at project costs. And that's based on program, brief, and scope. And then we compare the two and work out the fee based on both. Some difficulties that often come up are the proposed program from the client is too long. The brief is not fully defined. Some, on large resi schemes, the non-residential bits don't really get accounted for, or the scope of services hasn't been shared. So it's really important to state those assumptions that you make and clearly identify those in the fee. A change in brief or program can totally derail the fees and in turn can be a good way to negotiate additional fees. Key is to be really clear from the outset, both in written proposal and also talking directly to the client. We do usually allow for some program extension to minimize risk, but also to keep a good relationship with the client. Of course,
1 minute, Judith.
Okay, I'm going to skip a bit. Negotiation, really important. I think it's really important to have open conversations with the client and also give feedback during the project. And for example, if we do a favor to a client, like a small change, we always state that this cost us this and this much. So at least you kind of keep a tally on that. And during negotiations, if the client wants to reduce the fees, we often go back and propose omission of certain parts of the deliverables, or sometimes that means that clarifications of the scope kind of get issued. Lastly, getting paid on time and is really important. Communication, again, is key. Each project has different payment terms, and often they are not very clear at the beginning of a project. So it's really important to fully understand the terms and to establish a really clear payment protocol. So things that come to mind are agreeing a monthly drawdown schedule. Are they happy to pay by drawdown schedule, or do they need a kind of percentage complete of services? Do you have to invoice at a specific time of the month? Is there purchase order number, and so forth? So the very first invoice is usually the most difficult to get paid. So we spend quite a lot of time establishing all those things early on and chasing up and so on, because that can really impact the studio cash flow. Key takeaway from me is know where your values lie, know where your powers lie. I think we really rarely threaten to stand down because of non-payment of fees, but we have done so. And if we do, somehow miraculously, the money usually arrives quite quickly in the bank account. Thank you.